Dear students, yesterday we have discussed delta modulation system to transmit a single bit either 0 or 1. Now we would like to discuss adaptive delta modulation. What do you mean adaptive delta modulation? Adaptive delta modulation is a delta modulation system where the step size of the digital to analog converter is automatically varied depending on the amplitude of characteristics of the analog input signal. What is the difference between delta modulation and adaptive delta modulation? In the delta modulation, the step size of digital to analog converter is fixed, whereas in case of adaptive delta modulation, the step size of digital to analog converter is varied depending on the amplitude of characteristics of the input analog signal. What is the advantage to change the step size according to the analog input signal? Yesterday we have observed two errors, also called as quantization errors, that are number one, slope overload distortion, and second one, granular noise. These two noises occurred in the delta modulation because of fixed step size. To overcome the quantization errors, which are slope overload distortion and granular noise, the step size of digital to analog converter is varied depending on the amplitude of analog input signal. The step size of the digital to analog converter is adapted based on estimates of an input analog signal. Now you see the differences between delta modulation and adaptive delta modulation. Come to the delta modulation system. Now you see this is the analog input voltage or analog input signal, and now the black line or black is the step size. This is a step size. Now you observe the difference between analog input voltage or analog input signal and the step size of digital to analog converter. You observe that huge difference between the step size of digital to analog converter and analog input signal. Therefore, slope overload distortion occurs. Do you understand I mean? Slope overload distortion occurs in the delta modulation because of the huge difference between the step size of DAC and input analog signal. Now come to the granular noise. Yesterday we have discussed about the meaning of granular noise or how to arise granular noise. The amplitude of recovered signal is not constant. The amplitude of input signal. Therefore, granular noise arises in this one. Now you see the diagram. Delta is equal to a step size which is fixed in the DAC, in the delta modulation, and Ts is equal to sampling time period. Now you observe in the delta modulation system. So here the step size of DAC is fixed. That is the reason why There is a huge difference between analog input voltage and step size, so that slope overload distortion occurs and also granular noise. Now come to the adaptive delta modulation system. Now this is the black indicates analog input signal, and this is a step size. Blue color indicates step size. Now you observe between the original analog signal and step size, there is minimum difference between analog input voltage and step size of DAC. Therefore, slope overload distortion reduced. This is because of the step size of DAC is varied according to the input analog signal. Now you come to the granular noise. Here also the step size is varied according to the input analog signal. Therefore, granular noise minimized. This is the basic difference between adaptive delta modulation and delta modulation. Once again I am telling you, slope overload distortion is reduced and granular noise is also reduced by varying the step size of DAC according to the amplitude of characteristics of original analog signal. This is the major difference. Thank you. Second video.